welcome back to the Foreplay channel. I'm Bella.
I'm Jase.
Today's video is all about a review of Bliss Cruise November 2024, which was on the Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas cruise ship. It was the largest swinging lifestyle event of all time, and we're excited to go into a review about everything for you guys to learn all about it. Before we get into the review, if our content helps you out at all and you plan on coming on a future Bliss cruise, we'd greatly appreciate if you consider using our links to book your vacation at foreplay.com/cruise. It's completely free to you, but it helps us out a ton. It just helps us be able to continue to create content like this and help others along their lifestyle journey. And you get put into the Foreplay group where we do additional activities, exclusive meetups. We have an online community on Discord and on Facebook that is exclusive and private and VIP, and you get to be a part of that. And we also do exclusive gifts on the ship as well, and a group dinner, meetup, things like that, and we'd love to have you as part of our group. And again, that's foreplay.com/cruise.
So before we jump into the actual review, two different things. One, we're gonna keep this as concise as we possibly can. If you want a crazy in-depth review, we have around an hour and a half podcast that you can listen to right down here, foreplay.com/listen, and that way you can hear something really in-depth. And we're gonna keep this as concise as possible, just so that you get all the information that you need, but we want to make sure that it's not an hour and a half video. The second thing that we're gonna say is book early. We've said this in previous videos, but it's becoming more and more relevant now. For example, as of time of filming this, it's December 2024, and Bliss Cruise April and November 2025 are already booked out. They have been sold out for a long time, so we are looking at literally a whole year in advance. These cruises are being sold out. And so the only ones that you are able to go on right now are April 2026 and November 2026. There is a wait list which you can actually join. We'll have it linked right down here. It's foreplay.com/bliss-cruise, and you can get put on the wait list. So possibly you can go on April 2025 or November 2025, but if you want a place to go for sure, you have to do the 2026 cruises. So make sure to book early. That's our biggest piece of advice. Go book now, and then that way you make sure you have a spot, so you make sure you can go on these cruises. It's gonna be on Symphony of the Seas again in 2026, so it should be an amazing time, so make sure to go book early. But now we will jump into the first part of the review.
First, we'll go into the length. The November cruises on Bliss are typically 7 nights. Every now and then it's 6 nights, but typically it's 7 nights. This one specifically was 7 nights, and we personally feel like 7 nights really makes a big difference versus 5 or 6 nights. Sometimes it kind of takes time to get out of that vanilla mode or work mode or, you know, parent mode and get into that vacation lifestyle party mode. And the 7 nights, I think, really helps with that. And it kind of seems like everybody, once it's around day 3 and day 4, everyone gets their bearings down and it really starts to get more comfortable. And the 7 nights, that way you still have the last 3 to 4 nights of the cruise to really, really enjoy yourself.
So the size of the ship, once again, it was Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas. This is their 4th largest ship that they have. And so it is a massive ship. It's around 6,700 passengers. So just an absolutely amazing, huge lifestyle group. And so that is the size of the ship. Very, very large, very, very fun. Demographic wise, we'd say it is pretty much the normal average swinger age. It's that 40 to 55. One thing you can notice is because that size is so large, that even the people, you know, that 20s to 30s age and the 55 over age that are maybe not quite as large of a group is still a very large group, just because even 10% of that larger population is still a lot of people. So that's one thing that we really do like about Bliss Cruise being on these larger ships. Is just there's so many different people, there's so many connections you can make. It's also good to note that Bliss Cruise is a couples only cruise, so you cannot be single going on this cruise. Now there is some rooms that are like triple occupancy, and we, you know, met couples where it's like maybe 2 girls and a guy or vice versa, and so there is rooms like that, but it is good to note that it is a couples only cruise. Also, people often ask, like, do you have to be a swinger to go on these cruises? No, you definitely don't. I would say Bliss is primarily swingers, but there's a ton of people who are just, you know, maybe they are nudist, or they are people who are just like the open-minded environment. So it's welcome to anybody, and you know, that's whether you're brand new, you've been in the lifestyle forever, wherever you fall, it really is just a great cruise to meet people, make friends, and overall, that's kind of what the demographic is like.
You definitely never have to feel like you have to participate. If you want to, you can. If you don't want to participate in the swinging aspect, you will never be pressured to do so. The lifestyle is all about respect and consent, and that is like the biggest pillar of the lifestyle. Another thing to note about the size is it can be quite overwhelming overwhelming. Just having that sheer number of people making the connections. There are more options to make connections because there's more people, but at the same time, it's a little bit harder to navigate scheduling things. Sometimes you might see a couple or meet a couple or a group of people and then you don't see them again for a few days if you're not trying to schedule it out, just because there's so many different places on the ships to be and there's so many different things going on at pretty much all times on a ship this big. We're gonna move into the organization of the ship, and again, we're not gonna go into every single detail of the Symphony of the Seas ship. If you're wanting a full tour of the ship itself, we recommend to go Google or on YouTube a cruise ship review of the actual ship. We're going to go into more of how the ship is organized when it comes to being a Bliss Cruise charter ship on Symphony of the Seas. First, we'll talk about the playrooms. We know this is probably what most people are interested in and curious about, and the playrooms, there were 3 different ones. The biggest one was in the solarium, which is on the normal vanilla side of the Symphony of the Seas. It's the adults only outdoor / indoor pool area. There were a lot of hot tubs in there, there's a pool in there, and overall it's really nice. They have mattresses that are raised, so it's not like just on the floor or anything like that. A lot of them did have those sheer curtains that you can either open or close. Some of them were completely open where they didn't have any curtains at all. Some of the mattresses were put together to make a, you know, really big play area in some spots. There were a lot of places to lounge as well, and it was overall a very beautiful area to have a playroom. The only thing is, because it was indoor outdoor and we are on the seas, weather can really affect that, and so depending on if it's windy, depending on if it was rainy, that's definitely going to affect how the playroom is. A couple of the days they did have to completely close down the playroom. One of the nights they had to close it down because of the weather and the rain, and we had some friends who went to the playrooms when it was raining and they didn't close it down because it wasn't like too windy, too rainy, and they were just having to play in the rain. They said they enjoyed it. We're not like huge playroom people. That would definitely affect how we would have enjoyed our time there, but whenever, and sometimes it can get really hot too, so that's something to keep in mind. It was really nice, but there are pros and cons to having it in the solarium.
There is other playrooms though. There is an indoor playroom, and so that one, you know, is always going to be nice for the weather. One thing is that, you know, if that inclement weather is happening, that playroom is not big enough to facilitate everybody on the ship. Now, most of the time when you have everything open, which is the norm, it's plenty big. That is something to note. But that playroom is pretty cool because they do have times like in the evenings where it's just open to everybody to come and go as you please. But in the daytime, sometimes they'll have some different meetups there. So maybe they'll have a bi-couples only meetup or a girls only meetup or whatever those meetups are, which is a pretty cool idea because it kind of gives you an area to go to a playroom where you are able to meet like-minded people that maybe have a similar interest in those certain things. And so we think that's a really cool kind of thing they do there. There is one other playroom, but it's a fetish room / dungeon, and so that is more for that kink aspect. That area was on like one of the lower floors. It was indoors. It was in a place called the attic, and it was a large space, and so you had a lot of areas in the back where you kind of sit and watch. Then at the front they had a bunch of, you know, they had different crosses and just different BDSM type equipment. I'm not super versed in that, but you had people up there, you know, doing different scenes, people, you know, being submitted by shibari. You had all the whipping and flogging, all of that, where you could go up and put on a scene as well as just watch. And so they had a bunch of cool areas for playrooms on the ship, and I feel like Bliss does a really good job of balancing having those large ones that are outdoors for group stuff as well as the smaller intimate ones. I think it's a really cool kind of arrangement of playrooms there.
It's really cool that they have that kink aspect and also the playrooms for more in the swinging kind of kink space, and so it's really nice that you do have both of those options, and it's cool to be able to feel comfortable and free to explore all of the different options. When it comes to the parties on the ship, and we're talking about the nighttime club parties, not play parties, there was a ton of different areas that there were activities and things going on. It started off pretty much every night, kicked off at a pre-party on the promenade area, and the promenade area was really cool. There were shopping there. there. There was pizza there, so, another restaurant there. There's like a cafe, and then they also did karaoke there. In addition, there was a Latin club there too. So just in the promenade area, there was a ton of things to do and things to see. And that is about from 7 to 9 o'clock. There was a DJ there playing music, and it was our personal favorite spot to go to before we headed to the main party. It was a perfect place to people watch and see everybody's outfits and costumes, and you usually saw people that you knew as well, because people were going from one side of the ship to the other. So it was definitely a big hub. We really like whenever there are the promenade areas on the Bliss cruises, whenever they do it with Royal Caribbean.
So one floor down from that was Studio B, which is actually the ice skating rink, but they used it for the main parties at night. And so, no, they don't saw the ice there. They put flooring down, which actually makes it really nice, because to us, it feels a little bit cooler because, you know, you're based off that layer of ice and then you're standing on top of the floor. And so it never really gets too hot. It always feels a comfortable temperature. It's also a pretty cool layout because it's almost a stadium seating where it kind of goes up on both sides or all around it really. And so, you know, you're able to go dance. Maybe you want to go sit down for a little bit, take a break. You can watch everybody dancing. Maybe you want to dance just kind of in your seat. It really gives you a lot of options for that. And so I think that Studio B is a really cool place to have the main parties at night. Like Bella said, there's several things going on, so people kind of disperse through all the different areas. Also in Studio B, there was a silent disco. We've never seen a silent disco on a Bliss cruise before. We went one night and we had such a fun time. That's where they give you different headphones and you can change the actual music. People just kind of sing along. They did it a couple different nights. It was never super busy, but we went one night, and that's a really fun thing to do on a cruise ship. So if you're ever on a Bliss in the future and they do the silent disco, I'd highly recommend going, because that was really fun too. We did talk to a few people that said they wish that they had more outdoor parties on this ship, and there was one outdoor party which we'll talk about. But we personally feel like because of how big this ship is, how many people there is, that we like that they had Studio B as the main area, because when everybody is outside in one area, it's kind of too crowded and too restrictive. And so we feel like we like that party. Also, you don't ever have to worry about inclement weather or getting changed last minute. So we personally really liked the party in Studio B. I really enjoyed it. I feel like the party stayed pretty busy for a long time. It got busy at that 11ish 30 hour, and I would say maybe 1:30, maybe 2, it started dying down. But you have to think there's so many people on the ship that the party just kind of stays going. But at that 1:30 or 2 o'clock time, it would kind of die off. You know, people maybe go to the playrooms, people go to get late night food, they go back to the rooms, whatever it is. But that was the main party area, and I feel like it really worked out nicely for a party.
There also was an additional party area that was at a more smaller club, more lounge, traditional club lounge type of space called JASE'S. And some nights around midnight, there would be a different DJ who was playing there. So some people would disperse from Studio B into that JASE'S area.
So another area that's always important on these ships is the pools. Now, one thing that we think is hard with Symphony is the ship is so large. And so because of that, there's kind of 3 large main pools, where a lot of the time you see on these lifestyle cruises there's one main pool. So that would kind of be where the party normally is. But because there's 3 main pools, it kind of dispersed everyone everywhere. Now, there was one area in the middle that they would do all the different little activities, like, you know, a Miss Bliss contest or whatever those things were. And there was an area for that. But the rest of the time, everyone was just kind of sitting at the different pools. So it's good to note that it's not quite as heavy party feel during the pool parties. I would say it's more of a chill talking vibe, which personally I really like. It's a good area because the music's not too loud. You're able to make those connections in the daytime, talk to people, and there's a lot of just like fun areas to sit around there. So I mean, if you're not in the actual pool, you know, there's a ton of lounge chairs. There's a bunch of slides over there, which are really nice. You are able to be topless on the slides, which is super fun. They had a couple slides that you could race on that were just, you know, the normal twirly sides that were really fast. They had one that we called the toilet bowl, which was one that you would kind of go down and then go to a different level and go around in circles. So they had a lot of fun areas like that. But that's the one thing that did make it a little bit hard, was just because of the multiple pools, it was kind of hard to find people. Sometimes there really wasn't one main party area. When
it comes to different daytime activities, so you had the app, the Bliss Cruise app, not the Royal Caribbean app, and that had all of every single thing that was going on that day. So they had the meetups there, they had what kind of pool games were going on, what kind of shows were happening, when the party starts, and it was a really well done app, and it gets updated, you know, every April and every November for that specific cruise. Another cool thing about that is you can go through and star the things you are interested in, the things you want to do, and then it'll put it into your personal schedule, so that way you can keep everything in track, everything in line. And in addition, not with the Bliss Cruise, but with the Royal Caribbean app, they did have a messaging portion on there that was included for everybody. So you could, if you had a person's first and last name, you could message each other through the app, and the notifications were pretty good this time around. Usually you don't get notifications on your phone whenever you were getting messages, but it was really nice this time around, so then you can keep in touch with people a lot easier. So when it comes to the different pool time activities, they did have different games going on. So imagine a normal vanilla cruise when you would have like a belly flop contest or games like that. They would do games, but they were all sexy. For the Miss Bliss contest, so the women were up on, you know, the top floor dancing, not wearing clothes, like twerking, doing all that kind of fun stuff. We also have an activity called the car wash, where if you want to participate, the ladies will be completely nude on each side, and then the men will walk through naked. And so they have a lot of different activities like that. So it's a lot of fun too. If you want to participate, you can, or if you just want to be a bystander and watch, which is what we do, you can also do that. They also give out prizes and things like that as well. Another awesome thing they had was a fully decked out activity area. And so they had zip lining, they had rock climbing, they had mini golf, a huge mini golf area. They had slides that look like, if you've seen pictures, it's like the big piranha thing, and that is like a normal slide to get down from the top deck to the boardwalk area, which we'll get into in a little bit. They had 2 flow riders, which is a surfing simulator, which you could also do topless if you wanted to there. They had a huge basketball court that they sometimes would put up nets there too, so then people were playing basketball. Later in the day, people were playing pickleball. There were so many different activities, and a lot of times I think people think people will go on these cruises and it's all about sex, and it completely isn't. There are other traditional cruise activities that people can do as well, and it's a lot of fun to participate in. The one thing is you are surrounded by and doing these activities with like-minded people, and obviously there's no children around, so that is really fun and really cool.
And it's kind of fun because there's almost that mix of vanilla with like the lifestyle type things. Maybe people will be topless when they're playing pickleball or something. So it's just kind of a really fun environment for all of those games as well.
The boardwalk area that I was talking about earlier, that was kind of, I guess you could say, a pier. It had a pier vibe or a carnival type vibe. There was a carousel there. I actually never saw it on. I remember whenever we went on Oasis of the Seas on Bliss Cruise back in 2021, it was like a very core memory for me seeing people go on that merry-go-round and like flashing and things. I never saw it on this time around, but they had like a hot dog station, they had a burger place that you could eat at, and
the sports bar down there.
Sports bar that was always really busy, and they had a candy shop, things like that. And so it was a really cool area. This is also where the Aqua Theater was, which was like a huge amphitheater where there was a pool in the front, and people would do the show people would do the acrobatics and all diving, like really high diving. Like it was really, really incredible. And I guess we'll talk about where the one outdoor party was at this time, because we're talking about the Aqua Theater, and this is where the glow night party was. And we have said in the past, like the glow night party at the Aqua Theater on Oasis of the Seas is the craziest, like most fun party we've ever been in the lifestyle we've ever gone to. And I think it just got so big and so talked about and so hyped up that it actually was really busy, and to the point where it was pretty overwhelming. And because it's outside, you don't know about weather, it's just hot and humid, and like sardines, like walking next to people like this, everybody trying to get to wherever they're trying to get to, whether that's like the dance floor up on the stage or even all around. But it was really cool looking because they had the UV lights and everybody was glowing. It was a really sick party. It just would have been better if we would have gone later in the night.
Yeah, we had some friends who went back, because we ended up leaving. Yeah. We had friends who went back later, and they said that, you know, at that midnight 1 o'clock when it started to clear out a little bit and you had a little bit more room to dance, they said it was one of their favorite parties they've ever been to.
Yeah.
And so that's just a thing to note, that if you are really overwhelmed when it comes to large groups of people, then, you know, maybe go to that party a little bit later at night. and not right when it starts, just because it's so busy. Now it was nice because if you wanted to kind of get away from the party, you still have the Boardwalk, which had a little bit more space, but if you wanted to be in that party mix, it was really, really crowded. So it's really cool that that party brought out so many people, but I think because it was so hyped, it was just a little bit overwhelming because of the amount of people.
And it was only that, like, you know, one area, and everybody knew they wanted to go to that one area with, you know, 6,700 people. You're just bound to obviously have that. And so nothing bad or nothing wrong on Bliss's part, just warning you that it can be pretty overwhelming if you're going right at the beginning.
Another area that was, I think, one of our favorite areas on the ship was Central Park. And so what they've done is basically built this massive park in the middle of the ship, and so there's these Central Park balcony rooms that kind of overlook this area, but it's just this large area that feels like you're outdoors. They have like real plants planted, they have trees, they have bird sounds playing all the time, and it makes you feel like you're in a park. You don't feel like you're on a cruise ship. There's a bunch of restaurants down there. There's some shopping. There's a thing called the Park Cafe, which is where they have some different little foods and like easy to go foods. But we really liked sitting down there. We would read, Bella would crochet, and it was just a nice area to relax, to walk through, and especially on a ship like this with this many people, sometimes it feels like really overwhelming, and to kind of go down there and be able to just have a place to go on a little stroll, it's really, really nice, really beautiful. And I think that the ships that have that Central Park, it really is an awesome atmosphere to kind of let you get a break from the cruise ship environment and feel like you're kind of in nature.
Moving on into the theme nights, every single night there is a theme, and we would say about 90% of people did dress up on theme. It doesn't mean that you have to go completely all out or anything like that. It is a complete vast array of participation, and so some people just wore maybe club wear that had a little, you know, hint of the theme, and then other people went all out in full costumes. For example, there was somebody who was in a full Kiss outfit, like with the huge platforms, face paint and everything. On one of the other nights, which was like a superhero night, there was a Deadpool who was in like full character. It looked like a very expensive outfit. There were people in body paint. They also did have body painting there that you could pay for and do if you wanted to do that. And so just know that a lot of people did participate in the themes, and you can go all out if you want to, or you can like barely if you want to.
We see a lot of like t-shirts, especially I feel like in men, it's like, this is my glow night shirt. Things like that are really normal too. So when we say it's 90% on theme, it's because it's that vast array there. And
there's no dress code or anything like that. So sometimes you'll go to a club and there is a dress code. There's not a dress code where you have to wear something like fancy or anything. You can really wear like whatever you want. You do have to be clothed. You can't be like nude unless you were body painted. That was okay since it was body paint. But people weren't just walking around completely nude. That is not allowed in those areas. We'll talk more about where you can be nude in the miscellaneous area.
And don't feel like, if you're not the kind of person that likes to dress up on theme, don't feel like you need to. We just want to let you know that you're going to be surrounded by people who normally are. You're not going to feel out of place or anything, but you just won't be in like the large majority of people there.
Talking about the actual theme nights, I'm going to read them because I don't remember them all exactly. And so it was high school flashback, formal night, superhero/villain, 80s glow, fetish, fire and ice, under the sea, and then famous couples and duos. And we really enjoyed the different themes this time around. I thought they were all, some of them were very unique, some of them were just cute and fun. We love that Bliss Cruise always does the fetish night and the glow night, and we think it's cool that they do put a specific theme to each of those. For example, this is 80s glow, not just random glow, and then it's fetish, fire and ice. And so then we think that you can be as creative as you want with that, and we really enjoyed being a part of those themes.
So now we're gonna get into food. So there was a bunch of different restaurants that are not included in your ticket price. So you had different steak restaurants or seafood restaurants, sushi restaurants, a bunch of different options like that, which are some good options. But as far as the food that is included, the first thing we're going to talk about is the formal dining room. They had this open at breakfast most days and as well as dinner. And so it was a nice area to go sit down, have a seated meal. You know, you order off a menu, it's, you know, a starter, an entree, and a dessert. They bring it out. They can accommodate really large groups in here. The one thing to note is that me and Belle like to eat dinner earlier, and even when we went to groups with around 6 o'clock, even if it was like a group of 10, it would take maybe an hour and a half to get seated, have your food, and leave. but at around 8:30, it got super duper busy. You might have to wait an hour or an hour and a half to get seated. It could take 2.5 hours to get your meal. So that's something to note, that if you don't want to spend a ton of time sitting down and eating, but you want to, try to go a little bit earlier. We feel like the food there was good. It was fun. Overall, I didn't love the food on this ship. It wasn't, anything bad. It wasn't anything great. It was just overall good food. And so there was a buffet that was open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and as well as the late night buffet. And I think they had a bunch of different options there. So, if you are some sort of dietary restriction, they're really good about accommodating that. And so you'll be able to find food there for sure. A lot of different staple foods plus kind of different stuff every single night. So the buffet is a really good option to eat. I also feel like they did a really good job about trying to be as accommodating as possible. For example, a couple days I saw them extend the breakfast hours because people are getting up late those days. Maybe it's a seating, people are sleeping in. They extended those hours. Also, they had that late night buffet, which was really, really awesome, especially for, maybe after a play session or after whatever you're doing. That was open pretty late, and so you're able to go get some good food there, as well as they had late night pizza, which is really, really awesome. The pizza was open like during the day as well, but it would get really busy at night. They had a ton of different pizzas. You could eat it there. We often took the pizza, went back to our room, and so that was a really good option for that late night food as well. Another option that is 24 hours is there's room service, and so that's something you could get delivered. One thing to note about room service, sometimes it's very fast, sometimes it's very slow. That's just going to depend on the luck of when you ordered and how many other people are ordering room service. There was another restaurant, which I think is one of my favorite restaurants, and there was a Mexican restaurant. They had different burritos. They had different different chips and salsa and queso, stuff like that you could do. I thought that food was honestly probably the best food on the entire ship, in my personal opinion. But it's just good to note there was a bunch of different options. There is a hot dog stand like Bella mentioned earlier. They have a Johnny Rockets, which is not included, that hamburger spot. So you have a ton of different options that are included as well as ones that are not included. But we just said no going onto this ship, that you're not really going on the ship to have the most amazing food in the world. You're going to make friends, make these connections, be in this great environment, and the food is going to be good. It's just not going to be, the most blow your socks off amazing food of all time. There is also a fetish dinner. Now, this isn't like a fetish show. It's more just people who want to pay an additional cost, put on all their fetish gear, and that is on the fetish night. You can go have a nice dinner with a lot of people kind of in that same environment. And so that is a cool option if you are more in that BDSM space and you really want to go to a dinner like that. They do have that option, which I think is a really cool thing they do.
Moving on into accommodations, all of the rooms, very, very, very nice, very big and spacious. Even in the interior rooms, we had an interior room with a virtual window, a virtual porthole, I guess you could say. And it sounds really funny, and whenever we first saw it, we were like, what in the world? But it actually turned out pretty cool. They had a live view of what it looked like on the outside, and so during the day we could see the port that we were at, and they even had like a curtain, and then whenever you close the curtain, it kind of gave that ocean view feel, like it kind of had like a daytime like lighting, so that was pretty neat. And then also, even though we had an interior room and we also had friends who had balcony rooms, the inside of the room, the layout was the exact same, and it was pretty much the exact same size too. So they had a bunch of different options that you can choose from interior all the way up to the suites. The suites are absolutely crazy. Some of them have slides and like jungle gyms in there, and then they had balcony rooms that overlooked the water. They also had balcony rooms overlooking the boardwalk area and the Central Park area and the promenade area. So there are a lot of different options for you to choose from. And the ship itself, very, very, very nice. Everything is always so clean and pristine. It felt like people were like, workers were always cleaning everywhere. Everything was so comfortable. There were so many different areas to lounge around, even just inside of the ship, whether that be just in like common areas, things like that. And so there was just so much to see and so much to explore, and everything was super, super nice.
Now we're going to talk about like the shows, seminars, things like that. The shows are the one area where I feel like I felt the most kind of like let down. I'm not saying they were bad or anything, but I just feel like there was more that could have been done. And so you had all of your standard Royal Caribbean shows, and those are really cool. Like the ice skating show was awesome. The Aqua theater show was really, really cool. You know, they had the different little like plays that are kind of the off-Broadway type stuff. And if you like that, I mean, it's fun. But the one thing we wish there would have been sexy shows. In the past, they've done sexy shows on Bliss. Other lifestyle cruises do those sexy shows, whether it's a cabaret or just even a couple nights bringing something in like that. I feel like it would really enhance it. A lot of people also talked to us about it. They're like, did they stop doing them? Do they not have them? Like, people miss those sexy shows. I think it really adds something. There's a lot of different ways they could do it. I mean, they have an adult comedian, they do stuff like that, but I feel like an actual cabaret or something like that would be really, really awesome on these cruises. And so that's something I just hope in the future they do have, is maybe they start incorporating more of those sexy shows again, whether it's an adult scavenger hunt or a Bella even mentioned like a love and marriage game show with swinger couples. Like, there's so many different ways that they could do that. I think it'd be really, really fun. And I feel like people kind of go into a space like this thinking like, hey, this is the sexy environment, and almost expect to see a sexy show. So that's why I feel like it also feels like such a letdown, because you're in this environment, you want to be in this, stay in this sexy environment, and then when it's just a normal show, I feel like it is disappointing. I know we felt that way, a lot of other people we talked to felt that way, so that is the one thing that felt like a letdown. But the seminars, they had a bunch of different seminars which are cool. They had paid ones, they had ones that were free. Normally the ones that are paid ones are a little bit more hands-on, but they also have the different free ones. We went to one that was a shibari tying type course, and one thing that Bella especially noted was she was like, some of these courses I think you're just gonna pick and choose the things that kind of make the most sense to you, because for that one, you know, the course was cool and they kind of show us you a little bit and tell you to kind of freestyle some stuff, but they didn't really even talk about like the safety that goes with rope. And so there's just lots of things like that. So we just say that with those classes, you know, just pick and choose like the parts that you're able to learn from, and some things may be left out, but it is really cool that they have the options of the paid seminars plus the free seminars. You can go to as many as you want, and they have a lot of those throughout the day.
They also had a ton of self-led meetups, and these can be hit and miss, and they had more specific ones here, but you never knew who was going to show up, and there wasn't usually a ton of people that showed up. For example, they had like a non-swingers meetup, they had make a dinner date meetup, they even had like an Asians meetup, and so there's definitely different niche things that you could go and meet like-minded people. There was like a 45 and under meetup, things like that. However, it's just like, again, I said, hit and miss. So sometimes you go and you'll really see a lot of people, meet a lot of people, and then sometimes there won't really be that many people there. I think one time we went, there was like 3 couples there, but that was like a while ago. They had a ton of live music. We feel like everywhere you went, you could listen to some type of live music, and that was really neat, really cool. And they had party games every single night with a couple named Mike and Lily, and they host these really fun party games. We remember going like, you know, a many Bliss cruises ago, and there was like maybe 10 people who went, and now it's so busy, completely full at the Dazzles Club. And so we are so proud of our friends Mike and Lily, and it's such a fun time, and it's really fun to watch too. You don't have to participate in anything. You can just be a bystander and just watch, and it's so fun. They had so many different games. Like one specifically I remember, there's like 2 teams, and then 2 ladies were at the front, and they had to catch ping pong balls between their bosoms in a cup, and so things like that. It's just really, really fun. And this is just like foreplay specific, but we also did our own personal meetup, and we held that kind of outdoor area by the amphitheater. We did a little bit of a get to know everybody kind of thing, gave everybody their gifts, and it was so fun. It's like our favorite part is just to put a face to all of you guys who support us and create those connections with you guys, in addition to seeing you guys make connections with other people within the group. Like, that is like my favorite part. I just love seeing that happen in real time. And then we also did a group dinner as well that night, and it was just so fun, and we will never get tired of it. And every time that we go on Bliss Cruise or any of the lifestyle cruises, we will be doing those little exclusive meetup things. Yeah,
and that's for all the people who book through us. And so if you guys want to be in part of our group and, you know, make some new connections, we'd love for you to be part of our group. You said you can go to foreplay.com/cruise, book your cruise, doesn't cost anything extra, but it just helps us out, and it lets our group continue to grow, and it truly makes us so happy just to meet everybody, and like Bella said, to put a face to all the people who watch or emails or whatever it is. It really is, it's always the biggest highlight for me. And so yeah, that was something we always have to talk about because it's just so much fun.
We feel like every year the music just keeps getting better and better. I really think that Bliss Cruise has the DJs down. There were a ton of different DJs. DJ Life of Spice is one of our really good friends, and he was on there. He always does an amazing job. There was DJ Steven B, DJ Do, and these are like, I think they're pretty much more like lifestyle specific DJs, but they do a really good job just navigating the crowd and doing a mix of top 40 into reggaeton, into EDM, and doing those really good transitions. And they would have DJs at the promenade, at the pre-parties, at the pool parties, at the main parties. There's just always good music everywhere, and yeah, no complaints about music. It was really fun to dance to, really fun to listen to, even good enough to even just be sitting and watching the music and the party going on. Usually we don't love to just like sit there and listen to DJ music, but they do a good job here.
So next we're going to talk about ports. We were at 3 ports whenever we were on this cruise. We were in Cozumel, Mexico, Labadee, Haiti, and Puerto de Plata, Dominican Republic. You know, you're gonna have all of your main excursions that you can do. People often ask, like, how do you book those? Normally around 90 to 60 days before the cruise, you'll get all of your cruise information and be able to actually log into the app. And at that point, you can book those excursions. You can book them on the actual cruise itself. Most of those are just gonna be your vanilla excursions, you know, whether that's dolphins or whatever it is. But they did have one adult only that was like a naked catamaran. I believe that was the Cozumel day. I've heard those can be really fun. We've never personally been on one. We like to be on the ship a lot of times when we're at port because it's just a little bit more quiet and it's a nice time to relax. But the one thing that really stuck out to me about these ports is specifically whenever we were in Labadee, Haiti, it is a Royal Caribbean owned island. No other boats were there, and so because of that, we were able to be like completely nude at the beach. Bella was able to swim in the ocean completely nude, and it's just such a fun thing to be able to do. And you know that everyone on the island that day was from our ship, so it was super fun just to be able to meet a bunch of people out there. They have some food that's included because it is one of the islands. You could go have a buffet, eat out, and it really was an awesome time. So the ports are really cool, and they do have some different excursions, but yeah, overall a really fun time.
Miscellaneous things that are important, but we didn't know exactly where specifically to put them. So where can you be clothing optional? This is only in the outside deck areas during the permitted times, which is you have to be at least 2 miles away from port. So whenever we are at port and we are parked next to a boat, you are not supposed to be nude. You cannot be nude. You do have to be clothed or, you know, like in your swimsuit. And that's a very important thing to make sure you're following the rules of, because the people who are across, they are not consenting, you know, to seeing all of this. Like the people who are going on Bliss Cruise, like you are signing a waiver saying like, you know what kind of cruise this is, you are not offended by nudity, by, you know, adult activities. And so definitely make sure you are following those rules. They are put in place for a reason, and you cannot be nude when you're just like walking around in the like common areas or in the lobby or at the dining table, those kinds of things. You can be in like very scantily clad outfits. Whenever you're at the dining area, sometimes they will give you a modesty towel, that's what they call it. So something you can sit on just so your butt cheeks aren't, you know, sitting on the chairs where people are eating. And so they're really good about that. I mean, it's not embarrassing or anything like that either. So keep that in mind. You cannot be nude everywhere, and you also do not have to participate in being completely nude. Some people are just topless. Some people just wear their swimsuit. Some people wear normal clothes. And so don't feel like you have to, but you do have the option if you want to be. When it comes to pricing of Bliss Cruises, it's going to depend on the different ships that they're on. So it's not like they do the same ship every single year, and so the prices are going to vary versus it being on a celebrity ship, or being 5 nights versus 6 nights versus 7 nights. So all of those, or being on a Royal Caribbean ship. So all of those things definitely go into the consideration of whatever the base price is. Typically we'd say an interior room will start at maybe about $3,200. Again, that's give and take depending on what kind of room you want and what kind of ship it is, and then it can go all the way up to a lot more than that if you're wanting a suite, or like if you're wanting like a balcony or something. It's probably more around like that $5,000-ish price just for the room and the fees, the port fees, things like that, and the gratuities. That all goes into that. One thing to note about this is the beverage package is not included. Some of the other lifestyle cruises, the unlimited beverage package is included for everybody. That is an additional price. That's something that you will have to pay for both, or for everybody who is in your cabin. You can't just have one person buy the beverage package and then the other person share theirs. It does have to be both people. You can do that on the ship, or just a hack, or well, just a tip really. If you book all of these things before you actually get on the ship, you typically do get a better price. It's usually more of a sale price, whether that be like 10 to 15 to 20% off, just depending. Same goes with those excursions. So also another thing to note.
But yeah, make sure to check the prices. Because I said we've seen Bliss cruises in April that start at $2,000. So that price really does vary a lot. You can go to foreplay.com/cruise. We have all of the prices listed for all of the cruises there. So make sure to check, because it really is going to vary depending on the time of year and the amount of days, the ship, all of that.
When it comes to staff, absolutely incredible. We always want to be clear that the Royal Caribbean staff, so there's the separation between the Royal Caribbean staff and the Bliss Cruise staff and the Bliss Cruise volunteers. The Royal Caribbean staff do know what kind of cruise charter this is. They do give consent. They are choosing to work the front line of that. So all of the staff, they are not forced to see things or forced to be in areas that they are uncomfortable with because they are giving consent for that. They have the option to work in like the back line area where they don't have to be a part or see or be exposed to the type of cruise that it is if they don't want to. So that's something we always want to be clear about, so they do know, and it is consensual. And then they are also not working the areas that are Bliss Cruise specific. So when it comes to the playrooms, when it comes to the seminars, when it comes to any of those kinds of things that are Bliss Cruise specific, those are Bliss Cruise staff and Bliss Cruise volunteers. So you're not going to see a Royal Caribbean staff member cleaning up something in the playroom. That's going to be a completely different type of staff, and they are absolutely incredible. Everybody is incredible. Everybody is so accommodating. Everybody wants to help and, you know, be able to, if you have anything going on, like they want to help you. And there's security everywhere too, so everything feels very safe and everyone's awesome. Malcolm, the cruise director, absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing. That's why I want him to do like a love and marriage game show, because it would be so fun. He would be so good at it. And we have absolutely nothing bad to say about the staff at all.
So in conclusion, this was our favorite lifestyle trip we have ever been on. We always love Bliss. We think they do such a good job. We had a lot of people ask us on the ship, like, do we like it being on this big of a ship? Do you like it being on this, like, what's better? And we talked about it all week, and we said, I think, honestly, at the end of the day, I think I did like the bigger ship, because I think that there's more connections, and that's what really matters the most to us. But we said what we love about Bliss is that they don't do only a big ship or only a small ship. They have that variety. So if you don't like to go on the huge ones, you have the option. If you only want to go on the big ones, every couple of years it seems like they do one of these huge ones. And so you have that option, and we like the variety because I think that keeps it fun, doing the new ships, and sometimes going back on the same ship. Like, it's fun, and so we really, really like that. Also, it's good to note, people always ask, like, hey, if I'm newer to the lifestyle, I'm kind of wanting to get into it, I think we're ready, is a cruise like this, like, is it a good option? We always say yes, because we feel like it's a really good place where you can go, have multiple days to get your bearings. They have a bunch of courses. You can take the time to make connections. You can spend time in your room. You can go do the lifestyle stuff. You can do whatever you want to do. So cruises are really great from those people who are freshly maybe new into lifestyle to people who've been in lifestyle for years, even to the people that just like that spicy environment. And so we really do feel like the cruises are incredible. Overall, it was an amazing trip. You heard the few things that we said we think could be improved on, but overall, it really, really was incredible. We are booked out on all of them that are scheduled right now, so the next the next 2 years, and we are looking forward to them so much. But hopefully that was able to help you guys get some information. Like we said, if it does help, we'd love that you book with our group right now here at foreplay.com/cruise. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on this video. Comment below if you guys have any questions about Bliss Cruise, or maybe a comment that will help someone else and you've been on Bliss before. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss we post a video, and we will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.